The execution order echoed through the Zorathian camp with cold finality. The human prisoners, bound and battered, stood under the harsh glare of alien floodlights, their faces etched with a mix of defiance and dread. The Galactic Empire had chosen this moment to send a message, a brutal display of dominance to silence resistance on the fringe worlds. Captain Marcus Hale, his uniform torn and bloodied, stared unflinchingly at the Zorathian officer reading the charges. "By order of the Emperor, you are hereby sentenced to death for crimes against the Empire," the officer declared, his voice devoid of emotion. Hale's jaw tightened, his fists clenched against the restraints. Around him, the other prisoners, soldiers, scientists, civilians, shared glances that spoke of courage despite the inevitability of their fate. They had been captured during a skirmish on Tarsus V, a minor human outpost. What began as a border dispute had escalated into this nightmare. "Do you really think this will break us?" Hale said, his voice cutting through the silence. "You can kill us, but you'll never stop us," the Zorathian officer sneered. "Your defiance is meaningless. The Empire crushes all who oppose it." The energy rifles hummed as they powered up, their barrels aimed at the row of prisoners. In the distance, a recording drone hovered, transmitting the execution live to the galaxy. The Empire wanted everyone to see. The price of defiance was death. But what the Empire did not anticipate was the fury it would unleash. Across the galaxy, the broadcast ignited outrage. On Earth, the United Human Confederation watched in stunned silence as their people were executed in cold blood. The footage, repeated on every screen, sparked protests, demands for action, and an unshakable resolve. President Lila Grant, her face pale but her eyes blazing, addressed the Confederation Council. "The Empire has crossed a line that cannot be ignored," she said, her voice trembling with anger. "They seek to cow us with fear, but they have only fueled our resolve. This is not just an attack on our people, it is an attack on our very existence. We will respond." The decision was made to escalate the conflict, but Earth knew it could not stand alone against the Empire's might. It was then that the Confederation revealed its most guarded secret, a network of alliances with alien races who had suffered under the Empire's rule. In the shadows of the galactic political stage, Earth had forged covert bonds with species who shared their vision of freedom. The Sarathin, masters of stealth technology, the Yulrani, fierce warriors with unbreakable loyalties, and the Elfin, whose unparalleled intelligence had been key in developing advanced weapons. Together, they formed a coalition that would challenge the Empire's supremacy. The first move was swift and brutal. Earth's fleet, bolstered by Sarathin cloaking ships, launched a surprise attack on a Zorathian supply depot. The operation was led by Admiral Caravane, a brilliant strategist whose hatred for the Empire was matched only by her determination. On the bridge of the flagship Concordia, Vane coordinated the assault with precision. "Cut their supply lines," she ordered. "No mercy for those who enable tyranny." The battle was a symphony of chaos and ingenuity. Human and allied ships struck with precision, disabling the depot's defenses and seizing its resources. The Zorathians, caught off guard, scrambled to respond but were met with overwhelming force. As the depot burned, Vane broadcast a message to the galaxy. "This is for Tarsus V. For every life the Empire has taken, we will take back tenfold. The oppressed have risen, and the Empire will fall." The retaliation marked the beginning of a full-blown war. The coalition, though smaller in number, leveraged their diversity and innovation to outmaneuver the Empire. Each battle was a statement, each victory a step toward liberation. But the war came at a cost. Casualties mounted, alliances were tested, and the galaxy teetered on the brink of chaos. And yet, through it all, humanity and its allies stood firm, their resolve unbroken. For they knew that their fight was not just for survival. It was for a future where no one lived under the shadow of oppression. As the coalition's resistance grew, the Empire responded with increasing brutality. Zorathian fleets raised planets suspected of harboring rebels, leaving devastation in their wake. The galaxy became a chessboard of conflict, with each side vying for dominance. Admiral Caravane and her coalition forces struck back with calculated precision. Using intelligence gathered by the Sarathin, they targeted key Imperial facilities, disrupting supply chains and sowing chaos within the Empire's ranks. Every operation was a risk, but the coalition's adaptability and unity gave them an edge. One of their boldest moves was an assault on the Zorathian stronghold of Valaris Prime. The fortress world was a symbol of Imperial might, its defenses considered impenetrable. But the coalition saw it as an opportunity to make a statement. The Empire was not invincible. The operation, codenamed Sundown, involved a multi-species task force. Human pilots flew alongside Yulrani warriors, their coordinated strikes overwhelming the Zorathian defenses. The Elfin, stationed in orbit, used their advanced algorithms algorithms to jam enemy communications and guide coalition forces through the chaos. On the ground, Captain Marcus Hale, rescued from captivity during a daring raid, led a commando team tasked with sabotaging Valaris Prime's planetary shields. Hale's survival had become a rallying point for the coalition, his determination a symbol of humanity's resilience. The mission was harrowing. Hale and his team infiltrated the fortress under cover of darkness, their every step fraught with danger. The Zorathian patrols were relentless, their advanced technology detecting even the faintest anomalies. But the Seraphin cloaking devices gave the commandos the edge they needed. As they approached the shield generator, Hale's communicator buzzed. "Captain, you've got incoming," warned a Seraphin operative monitoring the mission from orbit. "We'll handle it," Hale replied, his voice steady. "Stay on target." The ensuing firefight was brutal. Hale's team fought with desperation, their movements a deadly dance of precision and instinct. When the shield generator finally exploded, the fortress's defenses crumbled, leaving it vulnerable to the coalition's orbital bombardment. The victory at Valaris Prime was a turning point. The Empire, stunned by the loss of one of its most fortified worlds, began to falter. Across the galaxy, oppressed systems took heart, rising against their oppressors and joining the coalition's cause. But success brought new challenges. The coalition's growing size strained its resources and tested its unity. Disagreements arose over strategy, with some factions advocating for total war while others pushed for diplomacy. Admiral Vane, now a central figure in the coalition, worked tirelessly to maintain cohesion. She met with leaders of every species, navigating cultural differences and brokering compromises. Her reputation as a unifier earned her respect, but it also made her a target. The Empire, desperate to regain control, launched a covert operation to eliminate Vane. Zorathian assassins infiltrated coalition territory, their mission to strike at the coalition's heart. The attempt failed, but it left Vane shaken and more determined than ever. "We can't afford to falter," she told her inner circle during a strategy session. "The Empire knows we're winning. They'll do everything in their power to stop us. We have to be stronger, smarter, and more united." The coalition responded with renewed vigor. Their next target was the Imperial shipyards at Calvaxis, a facility critical to the Empire's fleet production. The operation required flawless coordination, as the shipyards were protected by an entire fleet. The battle for Calvaxis was one of the largest and most complex of the war. The coalition's ships swarmed the shipyards, their attacks disrupting production lines and destroying unfinished vessels. On the ground, commandos sabotaged key infrastructure, leaving the shipyards in ruins. The victory at Calvaxis marked the beginning of the end for the Empire. Its fleet, unable to replenish its losses, began to crumble. The coalition, emboldened by their success, prepared for the final push, an assault on the Imperial capital. But the Empire was not finished. In a desperate bid to turn the tide, they unleashed a devastating weapon, a planetary disruptor capable of rendering entire worlds uninhabitable. The coalition faced a new challenge: to stop the Empire's last-ditch effort to retain power while avoiding the very destruction they sought to prevent. The coalition's forces gathered at the edge of Zorathian space, their ships forming a vast armada that stretched across the void. The final assault on the Imperial capital, codenamed Eclipse, was a gamble of monumental proportions. Victory would end the Empire's reign, but failure could plunge the galaxy into chaos. On the bridge of the Concordia, Admiral Vane addressed the coalition's leaders via holographic link. Her image flickered above the table, her expression resolute. "This is our moment," she said. "The Empire is weakened, but they will fight to the last. We must be prepared to do the same." The armada jumped into hyperspace, emerging at the edge of the Imperial capital system. The sight that greeted them was both awe-inspiring and daunting. The Zorathian homeworld, encircled by a ring of massive defense stations and a fleet that dwarfed any they had faced before. The Empire's forces, led by Supreme Commander Thalzek, were prepared for the assault. Thalzek, a veteran of countless campaigns, was known for his ruthless efficiency. He addressed his fleet with cold precision. "The coalition thinks they can break us. Show them the folly of their defiance." The battle that followed was unlike any the galaxy had seen. The coalition's ships clashed with the Zorathian fleet in a chaotic ballet of fire and destruction. Fighters swarmed like hornets, capital ships exchanged broadsides, and the void was lit with the flare of exploding vessels. Amid the chaos, Captain Hale led a ground assault on the capital's planetary disruptor. The weapon, hidden beneath a sprawling fortress, was the Empire's last hope of turning the tide. Hale's team, a mix of humans and Yulrani warriors, infiltrated the fortress under heavy fire. Inside, the team encountered fierce resistance. The corridors were a maze of traps and ambushes designed to delay intruders. Hale's leadership and the team's cohesion carried them through, but the cost was was high. One by one, his soldiers fell, their sacrifices buying precious seconds. As they reached the disruptor's control room, Hale set the charges on the weapon's core. The countdown began, the timer ticking ominously as the team fought to hold off the reinforcements converging on their position. Above the planet, the Coalition's fleet faced its own desperate battle. The Zorathian defenses were formidable, their weapons tearing through ships with brutal efficiency. But the Coalition's resolve was unshakable. The Elthan's algorithms guided precision strikes, disabling key stations and opening gaps in the Empire's formation. Admiral Vane, aboard the Concordia, directed the battle with relentless focus. "Concentrate fire on their flagship," she ordered. "Take out Thalzek, and the fleet will crumble." The Coalition's ships converged on the Zorathian flagship, their combined firepower overwhelming its defenses. As the flagship exploded, a shockwave rippled through the Zorathian fleet. The Empire's ships faltered, their formation collapsing as panic spread. On the planet's surface, Hale and his remaining team fought their way out of the fortress as the charges detonated. The disruptor erupted in a blinding explosion, the shockwave visible even from orbit. The weapon was destroyed, and with it, the Empire's last hope of victory. The battle ended with the Coalition's forces surrounding the Zorathian capital. Supreme Commander Thalzek, his fleet in ruins and his planet under siege, reluctantly surrendered. The Empire's reign, which had lasted for centuries, was over. The Coalition's leaders convened to decide the galaxy's future. The war had united them, but the peace would be more challenging. Admiral Vane, Captain Hale, and representatives from every allied species worked tirelessly to establish a new order, one built on cooperation and mutual respect. On the steps of the Imperial Palace, now the site of the Coalition's headquarters, Vane addressed the galaxy. "This is not the end," she said. "It is a new beginning. We have proven that tyranny cannot stand against unity. Let this be the foundation of a future where freedom is not a dream, but a reality for all." The galaxy began the long process of rebuilding, its scars a reminder of the cost of freedom. The Coalition evolved into the Galactic Concordium, a body dedicated to preserving peace and justice. Humanity, once considered a minor player, emerged as a leader, its resilience and determination inspiring the galaxy. For Vane, Hale, and their allies, the journey was far from over. The challenges of peace required as much courage as the battles of war. But they faced the future with hope, knowing that their sacrifices had paved the way for a better galaxy. The surrender of the Zorathian Empire marked the beginning of a new chapter for the galaxy, but it was far from a time of celebration. The war had left countless worlds in ruins, and the task of rebuilding was daunting. The Galactic Concordium, formed in the aftermath of the conflict, became the guiding force in shaping the galaxy's future. Admiral Vane, hailed as a hero, found herself thrust into the role of a diplomat and administrator. Though she had spent her life in battle, she quickly adapted to the complexities of governance. Her efforts to mediate disputes between Coalition members were instrumental in preventing the alliance from fracturing under the weight of post-war challenges. One of her first initiatives was the Reconstruction Pact, a comprehensive plan to restore devastated worlds. The Concordium pooled resources from its member species, prioritizing infrastructure, healthcare, and education. Vane traveled from system to system, rallying support and ensuring that no planet was left behind. On Earth, Captain Hale returned to a hero's welcome, but he found little comfort in the accolades. The faces of those he had lost haunted him, their sacrifices a constant reminder of the war's cost. He turned his focus to mentoring the next generation of leaders, sharing the lessons he had learned on the battlefield. Hale's efforts extended beyond humanity. He became a symbol of unity, fostering understanding between species that had once been adversaries. His work with the Yulrani, in particular, strengthened the bonds between their people and humanity. Meanwhile, the Sarathin, whose cloaking technology had been pivotal in the war, faced their own challenges. Their society, long accustomed to secrecy, struggled to adapt to the newfound openness of the Concordium. Vane worked closely with Sarathin leaders, helping them find their place in the new order. The Elthan, too, found themselves at a crossroads. Their technological expertise had made them invaluable during the war, but their insular tendencies created friction within the Concordium. Vane and Hale collaborated to address these tensions, fostering dialogue and cooperation. As the galaxy rebuilt, the Concordium turned its attention to the lingering remnants of the Empire. Rogue commanders and loyalist factions refused to surrender, launching guerrilla attacks that threatened the fragile peace. Vane directed targeted operations to neutralize these threats, her strategic brilliance once again proving invaluable. One of the most dangerous missions involved a rogue Zorathian fleet hiding in the Shadow Nebula, a region notorious for its hazardous conditions. Vane personally oversaw the operation, leading a coalition task task force into the nebula. The mission was a success, but it came at a cost. Several ships were lost, and Vane herself was injured during a skirmish. Despite her injuries, Vane's resolve remained unshaken. "The price of peace is vigilance," she told her officers. "We owe it to those who gave their lives to see this through." The years passed, and the galaxy began to heal. The Concordium's efforts bore fruit, with former war zones transforming into thriving centers of commerce and culture. The bonds forged during the war deepened, creating a sense of shared destiny among the member species. Hale, now an elder statesman, continued his work as a mentor and advocate for unity. His speeches, filled with humility and wisdom, inspired countless young leaders. "We are stronger together," he often said. "The war taught us that. Now it's up to us to ensure we never forget." Vane, though less visible, remained a guiding force within the Concordium. Her strategies and vision laid the foundation for a galaxy that valued cooperation over conflict. She often reflected on the journey that had brought them here, finding solace in the knowledge that their sacrifices had not been in vain. On the 10th anniversary of the Empire's fall, the Concordium held a grand ceremony on Unity Prime, its capital. Delegates from every member species gathered to honor the past and look to the future. Vane and Hale, now legends in their own right, were among the guests of honor. As the ceremony concluded, a monument was unveiled, a towering structure inscribed with the names of those who had fought and fallen in the war. At its base, an eternal flame burned, a symbol of hope and resilience. Vane and Hale stood before the monument, their reflections illuminated by the flame. "Do you think they'd be proud?" Hale asked, his voice tinged with emotion. Vane nodded. "They'd be proud that we kept going, that we didn't let their sacrifices be in vain." The galaxy was far from perfect, but it was on a path toward something better. The war had shown the darkness of tyranny, but it had also revealed the strength of unity and the power of hope. And as Vane and Hale looked to the stars, they knew that the best was yet to come. The Concordium's efforts to reshape the galaxy were met with both successes and setbacks. As new trade routes flourished and cultural exchanges deepened understanding among species, pockets of resistance and old grudges occasionally threatened to unravel the progress. Each crisis tested the fragile unity, forcing the Concordium's leaders to confront the complexities of governance in a galaxy still healing from war. Admiral Vane took a more active role in diplomacy, traveling to distant systems to mediate disputes and reassure populations that had grown wary of centralized power. Her reputation as a wartime leader lent weight to her words, and her presence often diffused tensions before they escalated. Still, the strain of constant negotiations wore on her, and she found herself relying on a close circle of advisors, including Captain Hale. Hale, though reluctant to step back into the political arena, saw the importance of his role in maintaining the coalition's unity. He often spoke at forums and summits, his speeches grounded in the practical wisdom he had gained during the war. "Unity isn't easy," he told one gathering of leaders. "It's messy, complicated, and sometimes frustrating, but it's worth fighting for because the alternative is far worse." The Concordium also faced external challenges. The void left by the Empire's fall had created opportunities for new powers to rise. Some sought to cooperate with the Concordium, while others viewed it as a threat to their ambitions. Among the latter was the Vreenak Dominion, a militaristic regime that had remained neutral during the war but now sought to expand its influence. The Vreenak began testing the Concordium's resolve by conducting raids on border systems and pressuring vulnerable planets to join their dominion. The Concordium responded with measured firmness, deploying patrols to protect its borders and engaging in diplomatic efforts to de-escalate tensions. One such mission took Vane and Hale to the contested system of Lormus, where a critical trade hub was under threat. The Vreenak had positioned their fleet nearby, their intent clear but unspoken. Vane led a delegation to meet with their leaders, while Hale coordinated the Concordium's defensive measures. The negotiations were tense, with the Vreenak commander, a calculating figure named Zareth Kren, testing the limits of diplomacy. "The Concordium is overreaching," Kren said, his voice dripping with disdain. "You cannot expect every system to fall in line with your ideals." Vane met his gaze, her tone calm but firm. "The Concordium doesn't demand obedience. We offer cooperation, mutual respect, and a chance to build something better. The choice is yours, Commander Kren. But know this, we will defend what we've built." The standoff at Lormus ended without bloodshed, a testament to the Concordium's resolve and Vane's skill as a negotiator. But it was a reminder that the fight for peace required constant vigilance and unwavering commitment. As the Concordium navigated these challenges, it also celebrated its achievements. The Interstellar Academy, a hub for research and education, became a symbol of what the Coalition had accomplished. Students and scholars from every member species worked together to tackle the galaxy's most pressing issues, from environmental restoration to advanced propulsion technologies. One of the Academy's most ambitious projects was the development of the Stellar Nexus, a network of energy conduits that would provide sustainable power to even the most remote systems. The project brought together engineers, scientists, and diplomats, showcasing the power of collaboration. Hale visited the Academy often, sharing his experiences with students and encouraging them to dream beyond the limits of the past. During one visit, a young Sarathin student approached him, their eyes wide with curiosity. "Captain Hale," they asked, "do you think the galaxy will ever be truly united?" Hale paused, considering the question. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I do know this unity isn't about being the same. It's about valuing each other, even when we're different. If we can hold on to that, anything is possible." As the years passed, the Concordium solidified its place as a stabilizing force in the galaxy. Formerly isolated systems thrived within the network of trade and cooperation, and the scars of war began to fade. Vane and Hale, though older and wearier, continued to guide the coalition with wisdom and determination. On the 20th anniversary of the Empire's fall, the Concordium held a commemorative event on Unity Prime. Delegates from every member species gathered to reflect on the journey they had undertaken together. The centerpiece of the event was the unveiling of a new monument, a galactic map etched with the names of every system that had joined the Concordium, symbolizing their shared destiny. Vane and Hale stood before the map, their reflections shimmering on its polished surface. "We've come a long way," Hale said, his voice filled with quiet pride. "And we've still got a long way to go," Vane replied. "But for the first time, I believe we're on the right path." As the galaxy moved forward, it carried with it the lessons of the past. The sacrifices made during the war were honored, not just in monuments, but in the everyday lives of those who lived in freedom. And though challenges would always remain, the Concordium stood as a testament to what was possible when people chose hope over fear, unity over division. The stars continued to shine, their light a beacon of possibility. And in that light, Vane and Hale saw a future worth fighting for, a future where the galaxy's best days were still ahead as the galaxy transitioned from war to an era of cautious peace. The Concordium faced a critical test: how to govern without falling into the same patterns of tyranny and exploitation that had defined the Empire. The founding charter emphasized decentralized power, but maintaining cohesion across such a vast and diverse coalition required constant effort. One of the most significant challenges came from the Rim Worlds, a cluster of systems on the edge of Concordium space. These worlds, scarred by the Empire's exploitation, were wary of centralized authority. They demanded autonomy, refusing to adopt some of the Concordium's more unified policies. The situation grew tense, with protests and isolated skirmishes threatening to escalate into open rebellion. Admiral Vane and Captain Hale, despite their advancing years, took on the delicate task of addressing the Rim World's concerns. They traveled to the region aboard the Concordium's diplomatic flagship, the Harmony, accompanied by representatives from several member species. Their mission was not just to negotiate, but to listen. On the planet Talvaris, one of the largest Rim worlds, they met with local leaders in a grand hall that had once served as an imperial garrison. The air was heavy with distrust, but Vane's reputation preceded her. The leaders, many of whom had fought against the Empire, respected her as a warrior and a peacemaker. "We are not here to impose," Vane began, her voice steady but warm. "We understand the pain and loss you've endured. The Concordium exists not to replace the Empire, but to ensure that no one else suffers as you have. Help us build a system that respects your autonomy while fostering mutual support." Hale, ever the pragmatic voice, added, "We can't promise perfection, but we can promise to try, to learn from our mistakes and make decisions together." That's what the Concordium stands for. The negotiations were arduous, spanning weeks of debate and compromise. In the end, the Rim worlds agreed to remain within the Concordium, provided certain measures were implemented to protect their autonomy. The resolution was seen as a victory for diplomacy and a testament to the Concordium's commitment to inclusivity. As the Concordium solidified its internal unity, it also turned its attention outward. Exploratory missions ventured beyond known space, seeking to establish contact with civilizations untouched by the Empire. These missions were both an opportunity and a risk, as the Concordium encountered cultures with vastly different values and technologies. One such mission brought the Concordium into contact with the Kalari, a nomadic species with advanced biotech capabilities. The Kalari had avoided the Empire by remaining constantly on the move, their fleets acting as self-sustaining ecosystems. Their initial interactions with the Concordium were cautious, but mutual curiosity soon gave way to collaboration. The Kalari's expertise in bioengineering led to breakthroughs in medicine and agriculture, benefiting countless systems within the Concordium. In return, the Concordium provided the Calari with access to stable trade networks and technological resources. The partnership symbolized the Concordium's potential to create a galaxy where diversity was a strength. Despite these achievements, the shadow of the Empire lingered. Rogue factions, though diminished, continued to disrupt the peace with acts of terrorism and sabotage. The most infamous of these was the Crimson Rebirth, a group of Imperial loyalists who sought to reignite the flames of war. The Crimson Rebirth's activities culminated in an attack on Unity Prime itself. Using stolen Concordium ships, they infiltrated the capital and launched a coordinated assault on key facilities. The attack was devastating, but it also galvanized the Concordium's resolve. Vane and Hale, both present during the attack, led the defense with the same courage and determination that had defined their wartime service. Vane coordinated the military response, while Hale worked to protect civilians and maintain order. Their actions not only repelled the attackers, but also inspired the galaxy to stand united against the remnants of tyranny. In the aftermath of the attack, the Concordium launched a campaign to root out the Crimson Rebirth and other rogue factions. The effort required unprecedented cooperation among member species, further strengthening the bonds that held the Concordium together. As the years passed, the galaxy continued to evolve. The Concordium's achievements became a beacon of hope, inspiring other regions to join its ranks. The Interstellar Academy expanded its reach, training a new generation of leaders, scientists, and diplomats who carried forward the ideals of unity and collaboration. For Vane and Hale, their roles gradually shifted from active leadership to mentorship. They spent their days sharing their experiences and guiding the Concordium's future leaders. Their legacy was evident in the countless lives they had touched and the galaxy they had helped to transform. On the 30th anniversary of the Empire's fall, a new monument was unveiled on Unity Prime. The Galactic Nexus, a towering structure that symbolized the interconnectedness of the Concordium, stood as a testament to what the galaxy had achieved. Vane and Hale attended the ceremony, their presence a reminder of the journey that had brought them here. As they stood before the Nexus, Hale turned to Vane. "Do you ever wonder if we did enough?" he asked quietly. Vane considered his words before replying. "We did everything we could, and we trusted others to carry it forward. That's all anyone can do." The stars above shone brightly, their light reflecting off the Nexus and illuminating the faces of those gathered below. The galaxy was not perfect, but it was better, a testament to the strength of unity and the power of hope. And as Vane and Hale watched the next generation take their place on the galactic stage, they knew that the story of the Concordium was far from over. It was a story still being written, one star at a time. As the Concordium entered its 5th decade, its impact on the galaxy was undeniable. Systems that had once been isolated or at odds now thrived within a network of cooperation and shared prosperity. The scars of war, though still visible in some places, had become reminders of what unity could overcome. The Interstellar Academy unveiled its most ambitious project yet, the Stellar Exchange, a platform designed to facilitate cultural and technological collaboration on an unprecedented scale. Delegates from across the galaxy contributed their knowledge, resulting in breakthroughs that advanced fields from medicine to astrophysics. Admiral Vane, though officially retired, remained a revered figure within the Concordium. She spent her days mentoring rising leaders, her wisdom and experience shaping the galaxy's future. Her name became synonymous with resilience and unity, her legacy enshrined in history books and monuments. Captain Hale, too, left an indelible mark. His speeches and writings, filled with the hard-earned wisdom of a soldier-turned-statesman, inspired countless individuals to strive for something greater than themselves. His memoir, Through Fire and Stars, became a cornerstone of the Concordium's philosophy, its lessons resonating across generations. But even as the galaxy celebrated its progress, new challenges emerged. The exploration of uncharted regions brought the Concordium into contact with civilizations that viewed its principles with skepticism or hostility. Diplomatic missions became increasingly complex, requiring a delicate balance of assertiveness and understanding. One such mission took the Concordium's emissaries to the Helier Cluster, a region controlled by a confederation of fiercely independent systems. The Helians, wary of outside influence, greeted the Concordium's overtures with suspicion. Admiral Vane, stepping out of retirement for the mission, led the delegation herself. In the Hellion capital, a sprawling city built into the cliffs of a crystalline canyon, Vane addressed the assembled leaders. "We are not here to impose our will," she said. "The Concordium exists because we believe that our differences make us stronger. Join us, not as subjects, but as equals." The negotiations were tense, with the Helians challenging the Concordium's motives and methods. But Vane's reputation and sincerity eventually won them over. The Helier Cluster joined the Concordium, bringing with it unique perspectives and resources that enriched the coalition. Back on Unity Prime, the Concordium's headquarters buzzed with activity as new initiatives were launched to address emerging issues. Climate restoration efforts on war-torn worlds gained momentum, with entire ecosystems being revitalized through the combined efforts of Concordium scientists and local communities. As the years passed, the Concordium celebrated its golden anniversary. A grand summit was held, attended by delegates from every member species. The event was a celebration of unity, but it also served as a moment of reflection. Vane and Hale, now in their twilight years, were honored for their contributions, their names spoken with reverence and gratitude. During the summit, the Concordium unveiled the Unity Accord, a renewed commitment to its founding principles. The document was signed by every delegate, symbolizing the coalition's enduring promise to uphold peace, justice, and cooperation. As the summit concluded, Vane and Hale stood together on the observation deck of the Concordium's flagship. The stars stretched out before them, a reminder of the vastness of the galaxy they had helped to shape. "Do you think they'll keep it going?" Hale asked, his voice tinged with both hope and doubt. Vane nodded. "They will, because they've seen what we can achieve when we stand together. That's a lesson that doesn't fade." Their reflections were interrupted by a young officer who approached with a respectful salute. "Admiral, Captain," she said, her voice filled with awe. "It's an honor to meet you. Your work has inspired us all." Vane smiled, her gaze soft. "The honor is ours," she replied. "You're the ones carrying the torch now. Make us proud." As the officer departed, Vane and Hale shared a quiet moment of reflection. The galaxy was far from perfect, but it was better than it had been. And as they watched the stars, they knew that their journey had been worth it. The Concordium's story was one of hope, resilience, and the power of unity. It was a story that continued to unfold, its chapters written by those who dared to believe in a brighter future. And as the stars shone brightly above, they illuminated a galaxy that had chosen to stand together, proving that even in the darkest of times, the light of unity could guide the way. And the decades that followed the golden anniversary of the Concordium, the galaxy entered an era known as the Stellar Renaissance. This period was defined by unparalleled advancements in technology, culture, and exploration. The Concordium's emphasis on collaboration bore fruit as member species worked together to unlock the mysteries of the cosmos. New propulsion systems, developed through joint research at the Interstellar Academy, allowed ships to traverse vast distances in a fraction of the time once required. These advancements opened the door to regions of the galaxy previously deemed inaccessible, bringing with them the promise of discovery and the potential for new alliances. One of the most profound achievements of the Stellar Renaissance was the creation of the Unity Archive, a living repository of knowledge, art, and history from every member species. The archive became a cultural cornerstone, a place where individuals from all walks of life could connect with the stories and traditions of their galactic neighbors. Admiral Vane and Captain Hale, though retired from public service, continued to inspire through their contributions to the archive. Vane provided recordings of her war councils and diplomatic missions, offering invaluable insights into leadership during times of crisis. Hale contributed personal accounts of the battles he had fought and the friendships he had forged, his words a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. As the galaxy moved forward, the Concordium faced its share of challenges. Conflicts arose between systems with competing interests, and the complexities of managing such a vast coalition occasionally led to tensions. But the lessons of the past provided a foundation for resolution, and the Concordium's leaders worked tirelessly to uphold the principles that had guided them since their inception. In their final years, Vane and Hale chose to settle on a tranquil world known as Celestra, a planet gifted to the Concordium by the Calori. Its shimmering oceans and bioluminescent forests provided a serene backdrop for reflection. The two veterans, whose journeys had spanned the darkest and brightest chapters of galactic history, found solace in the knowledge that their efforts had made a difference. On the centennial of the Empire's fall, a galactic celebration was held to honor the Concordium's achievements and the sacrifices that had paved the way for peace. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy gathered on Unity Prime, their presence a living testament to the Coalition's enduring legacy. The highlight of the event was the unveiling of the Starlight Beacon, a colossal structure orbiting Unity Prime. The beacon, visible from anywhere on the planet, emitted a gentle light that symbolized the hope and unity that had guided the galaxy through its trials. Though frail, Vane and Hale attended the ceremony, their presence a reminder of the Concordium's origins. As they stood beneath the beacon, surrounded by the next generation of leaders, they reflected on the journey that had brought them here. "It's strange," Hale said, his voice soft but steady. To think that all of this started because we refused to give up, because we believed there had to be something better. Vane nodded, her gaze fixed on the beacon. And because we were willing to fight for it, to sacrifice for it, that's what made the difference. The two shared a moment of silence, their thoughts drifting to the friends and comrades they had lost along the way. Though the pain of those losses never truly faded, it was tempered by the knowledge that their sacrifices had not been in vain. As the ceremony concluded, Vane and Hale returned to Celestra, their roles in the galaxy's story complete. They spent their remaining days surrounded by the beauty of the natural world, their hearts at peace. When they passed, the galaxy mourned the loss of two of its greatest champions. Their names were etched into the Unity archive, their stories preserved for generations to come. The Starlight Beacon was renamed the Vane-Hale Memorial Beacon, a tribute to their enduring legacy. The Concordium, guided by the principles they had championed, continued to thrive. Its leaders drew inspiration from the example set by Vane and Hale, striving to uphold the ideals of unity, justice, and hope. And as the stars shone brightly across the galaxy, they served as a reminder of what was possible when people chose to stand together. The story of the Concordium, of humanity and its allies, was far from over. It was a story of resilience, of courage, and of the unyielding belief that even in the darkest times, the light of unity could illuminate the way forward.